Welcome to the Real Triathlon Podcast. I'm your host, Garrick Lowen, here with Nicholas Chase and Jackson Laundry.
Welcome back. We have today someone who inspires me. And honestly, pro triathletes are supposed to be there to inspire us and remind us how fast we can go. But I have the pleasure of working with Zach on a day-to-day basis, training for his triathlon endeavors. And then, as you know, we get to know each other. Zach, thanks for being part of the show today, buddy.
Thanks for having me, man.
I won't tell your story for you, but I will ask you some questions. And I think to preface everything, I think the main thing for me is being a pro athlete and a coach over the years. I've really enjoyed coaching because it connects me more with what this sport is all about. And this sport, on many levels, is way more than just a result. I mean, we all care about the result. It's easy to click and talk about results, but Zach, I know for you, this is a lot more than just a result. This is, if I think of an athlete that I've had the honor to work with over the years, who's just shown up day after day, great feedback, and just you have empathy, you have chiseled, charismatic text messages that are hilarious. You send a meme quite regularly of who is it again?
It was Zeke Elliott on the Dallas Cowboys of him just like eating milk or whatever it is, like feed me.
Yeah, like that is you to me, because I've seen that probably 100 times. But Zach, to kind of get this started, I was referred to be your coach through your sister Rachel, who is also tremendous. And from there, you fill in the gaps. How did this kind of get kicked off, and how did this relationship, in your opinion, turn into what it is now?
Yeah, I mean, not to do the whole long story, but I got into triathlon because I grew up swimming. It was kind of an outlet for me. I used to swim 6 days a week. And when I met my wife, or my now wife, of almost 10 years in December, she's like, "Oh my God, you should go to the Olympics." I'm like, "It's not that type of swimming." I just was like, I'm a 6 foot tall, or the Jewish 6 foot tall. I'm 5'10", and I'm not that fast.
Wait, is that a thing?
Yeah, dude, 5'10" is the Jewish 6 foot.
Okay, man, I'm pretty basic. You're pretty above average.
I mean, I'm huge compared to most people. No, so she's like, "Oh, just you should go to Olympics." I'm like, that's not gonna happen on the cards. And she's like, "Okay, do something competitive." And I was never a runner, never a bike. I rode bikes as a kid, like around the neighborhood. I'm like, all right, I'll do like a sprint triathlon or something like that.
What age was that?
It was my first year of dental school. So this was 2012.
Isn't it weird how the times you just after yesterday, I can't recount anything specifically.
Yeah, no, not even close. I don't remember what I had for dinner. No, hold on. I'm like having a second guessing my dates. Whatever, we'll call it 2012.
No one's gonna fact check it. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, but I'm just gonna be like 2 in the morning, and I'm like, it was 11. Anyway, so she's like, you should do something competitive. So I was like, all right, do the sprint triathlon. I have this like massive memory of being on the bike, and I borrowed a buddy's bike who's like 5'6". So like my knees are basically hitting the front handlebars, and I hear a boom, 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 boom. And this dude who's probably 50 years old, like breezes by me like I'm standing still with a disc. And I was like, hell yeah, I want to do that. I want to be that dude. And then I just got hooked. To my wife's regret, now it's become a large portion of my persona. And then it became sprints, Olympics. I promised myself, like, Ironman. That's crazy. Nobody does that. And then now I'm going to Kona. So it's been many years. It's ups and downs, man. But it's kind of it's been the glue that's kind of held everything together throughout like dental school, my residency program. Got in my head that I'm doing an Ironman this year, and it was finishing residency, moving, starting new job, new baby. And I just get something stuck in my head, and I got to do it.
That's quintessential triathlete. You are exactly the definition of what we love about this sport. And I personally love it too, because that's kind of how I found the sport too. Just happened upon it, and it just caught me like a hook, and I was not getting off. Since 24 years old, I think I've trained between 15 and 35 hours a week. And unless I was sick, that's like the only time.
Damn.
So I think that's why I really resonated with your approach and how it kind of caught on with you. It was like a fire. And then the most important thing that always, gets me as a coach sometimes is not necessarily excuses, because things happen and sometimes it's not an excuse, but it's not easy to get up early. It's not easy to do any of this. And I've always said kind of candidly, like high performing people are generally really good at triathlon, secondarily, because you have to have discipline, self-starting, no excuses. You have to compartmentalize well. And you really have to sacrifice your entire family sometimes, but then you get to reward them other times with a lot of your time and affection. So I think it sets a good example. Now, through this high-low period of triathlon, and did you have a coach from the start? What was the kind of like the turning of the screw to kind of be like, I want to see if someone can help me?
Right. So my first shot at Ironman, I self-coached myself. And in retrospect, I like showed up to race day just cooked. And had an okay day. I actually don't remember my time. Someone could probably look that up.
It's on Netflix.
Yeah, it's there somewhere. But it went well. Like I felt like I did a decent job. I'm like, there's a lot more here. So I wanted to like take it a little bit more seriously. Like, okay, there's only so much I can do. Like I got a full-time job, family, kid, like, so I was like, all right, I need a coach. So a buddy of mine who I met at the pool was like, hey, my good friend is a coach. So we started off, and coaches are like friends. You gotta click. It's a relationship. And if you don't click with somebody, it's like a forced weird, it's like being on a weird date and you're like, I want to go. So that's when my sister introduced us. And then, how long have we been together? It's basically when I moved here to Florida.
A couple of years now.
I think it's almost 3-4 years, man.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, it's like, because we met 2019.
You're right. It has been at least 3 years.
2019. Yeah, because you did
Miami Man or Clash Miami or something. No, Clash Miami. Yeah. And then like you picked me up in your sick Tesla and we went super fast. I remember that.
Well, that was years later.
Okay.
Yeah, no. So we've been together. It's been almost a little over 3 years, if I remember right.
Yeah. So trying to get you to come to Utah, but life.
I came to Utah to see my sister. Although you're a good reason to go, I just haven't made the time, unfortunately.
It's all right. Time is not really in your wallet as cash or extra cash.
Yeah. So when we met, I feel like we clicked pretty easily, and it was like, having said that, it took us a minute to like kind of figure me out from an athlete point of view. I remember you just buried me a couple times and I had to crawl out of a hole and whatever. It ended up working out for the better.
No doubt. I think you're an athlete who will take a challenge, and rather than, because I've had a couple athletes, this is very rare, by the way, this is not often, but a couple athletes who you give them what they ask for, you set it the plan out, and it's very overwhelming and there's a lot of pushback, and then you change it to kind of offset that, and then there's still pushback. So I find that there has to be a lot of really good fluidity within your regular life if you're going to take on this lifestyle. And I think that's really a highlight I wanted to emphasize with you. You don't just get to hang out and just, wait for things to happen, Zach. You are a mover. And, tell me about your day to day. Like, what are you in charge of? What's your responsibilities? Because it's not like something I even have to deal with. Like you do way more than me and most of us.
Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like
Pat
now
yourself
it's
on the
come.
back a little bit.
I don't take compliments well. No, so I would say like classic day on a Tuesday or Wednesdays, wake up at 4 a.m. Um, Usually, like hour and a half on the bike, hour 15 minutes, then maybe like a 20-30 minute run on a good day. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Then it's quick shower, quick breakfast, pack the lunch, try to get the supplements in, and then it's like driving to work. My office, I'm a dentist. My office hours are 7:30 to 3 o'clock. So I'm an early morning person, always have been. So I see patients 7:30 to 3, with a short little 30-minute lunch just to shovel food in my mouth and just rock and roll. Then I get home on a good day, run to the pool, which is, thank God, it's 3 blocks away. That makes my life a little bit easier. Um, and then it's come home, kind of hand off from the nanny. My wife is usually home around the same time. Um, and that's just family time. Dinner. Sometimes I make dinner. Sometimes my wife makes dinner. And I start getting anxiety when it's 8 o'clock and I'm not in bed. 8:39. I got to be lights out. So I don't
And
have a
that's
lot of free time.
and would you do more with free time, or would you want free time? Or like I have a hard time personally doing very little.
I I I'm like if I don't work out, I feel like I'm a person that will vibrate through a wall. I just like nervous energy. Um, Triathlon or working out in general just like keeps me grounded. I'm a better person. Like I'm more patient with my staff. I'm more patient with my kid. It's just easier. Life is easier.
Yeah. Life can be easier, especially when you have things that are working out. And you know, getting into the weeds of this, I think it was maybe Mont Tremblant, maybe last year around. Maybe was it last year July timeframe when you gave me a
Yeah.
call? It was just about to race Ironman 70.3 Mont Tremblant, and I was out there with Jackson. Amy was there, and the race didn't happen because of the smoke. But either way, this is like it
And
was
then
like
context too was I was training for Muskoka.
with Muskoka, yeah, which was a
And
couple weekends away from that.
yeah, yeah, it was. I don't think it was more than 3-4 weekends, and we were gonna do a big push. Like I was thinking, there's a really good chance we can be in the top, whatever of age group. Um, so yeah, there was a lot going on.
Yeah, and I think what resonates with me more, even up to that point, I knew you were badass. Let's not discount that at all. I was impressed no matter what. Mainly because we generally we could communicate about training well. We always would kind of get each other. I could usually feel when oh, Zach's in a well, we need to call him and give him some rest, and we need to tell him to rest a little bit. But then that day you gave me a call. I wasn't expecting it, but obviously at that point I've been to your home. I've been able to hang out with your family a bit. And what did you have to tell me, Zach? And obviously this is what we're jumping into the deep end here.
Yeah. So my daughter, Charlotte, at the time, was having some like balance issues, and we thought like it's like an inner ear thing. Um, or maybe she's going through just kid stuff. If you hear a baby crying in the background, I'm sorry. It's Stella, and she's just a little under the weather.
Stella.
Stella. Anyway, so Charlotte, we were like, okay, there's something off. Went to the eye doctor, the ear doctor, and we have a good friend who was working he's a pediatrician in the hospitals, and he's like, I'm here, like I'm in the emergency room. Just come by. We'll do a whole workup. It'll be fine. It'll probably just be something weird, and we'd be done. So I ended up taking a CT of her head, and they found a tumor. Um, it's a very, very specific area for a very specific type of tumor in that area, which is almost like doctors will say pathognomonic, meaning it's like really one specific thing that presents that specific way. And for listeners, it's called DIPG. It's a direct intrinsic pontine glioma. Super rare. It's in the pontine, which is basically the super highway of all your brain communicating to the rest of your body. And what makes it so crazy and bad is that it's not something you can take out. And because if you cut something, you don't know what it is. And then the other part of it is that it's in an area you can't surgically get to either. It's behind the blood-brain barrier. You can't get chemotherapy there. So it's a bad one. Yeah, so she was admitted. They did all these tests and basically just confirmed what the diagnosis was. At the time, the doctors were like, you kind of have, you got a year, about it, tops. If you don't do anything right now, you got 9 to 12 weeks ish. So that was rough. And that's when I think I called you on the way home.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey man, like I got a really bad curveball. This is gonna be a big one.
Well, to this day, not a single race goes by without me thinking of what you told me. Make this race count more for Charlotte. And I think about that every time I'm like those last few seconds before the gun goes off and we swim. That was, transformative to me. Obviously, hearing someone of your stature, knowing what you're going through, and what has always blown me away is the level of just, dude, pure strength that you've exhibited, not just outwardly, but I think it's inward too. I don't think it's anything that you didn't fully know was what you're made of. Because talk about tests, like the biggest test anyone could ever get probably hurled into is the loss of a child. And you pretty much had a year. I think it wasn't that long ago when that year came and went, and then is your light having an issue?
My lights are having issues. Go back on. Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, a year.
Sorry, carry on.
Roughly came and went. You got a little bit more time, but I think that kind of started a lot of things between how I thought about things too, and what I was most grateful for, and why I think now I wanted to help you tell your story, because I think the level of strength that you've displayed before all this was crazy good. Always asking good questions, always being very in depth, and now there's there's a lot of folks out there who never experience anything or change anything until they experience something that's traumatic, but you've already been living that way. Now, when you found all this news out that we are going to lose our daughter within a period of time, hopefully it's the longest period we can ever have in our lives, but what changes in your mind as someone who's dedicated so much time, energy towards like other things? Like what literally is the priority shift straight off the bat?
Yeah, so I mean, just give a little context is, we kind of had a choice of like, all right, we're just gonna let this happen and then not do treatment, which is an option, or try to do, the thought was let's do what we can, and I mean, maybe somebody has a breakthrough. We don't know. Like it's worth rolling the dice and trying to do that. So we basically, over the course of 12, almost 13 months, we did 2 rounds of radiation. First round of radiation was 6 weeks long, 5 days a week. So it was just like radiation. My daughter Charlotte was sedated for every single time. So every day she'd wake up, couldn't eat, get sedated, radiation. And then, she'd be a zombie for a decent portion of the day. But like she was, through all this, like girl still like She was super into princess stuff. She would still like insist on necklace, tiara, fairy wings, and she's like, I'm going to school. Because she wanted to like have her day. So we did 6 weeks course of radiation. When that finished, we got like a really, really good stretch where tumor got shrunk and we had some great times. During this time, my wife was pregnant again with our second daughter. So that was kind of like a new curveball. Trying to remember. So then somewhere in the middle there, my wife went into preterm labor, and she had to be hospitalized. So like, you're not leaving until the baby's out of you, and we're going to keep it in as long as we can. So to me, I always tell people it was a month. Paige says, no, it's like 2.5 weeks. It was like 3 weeks a time, I feel like.
Real quick, like I remember at this phase going like, talk about throwing everything you can at one family. Like now you're so nervous about anything going on with your soon to be born child, with Paige's health and welfare. Meantime, you've got Charlotte, who's probably just the toughest do attitude out there, and you're just having this roller coaster. And you still stuck with everything, man. Like you still used this lifestyle as an anchor.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like our thing was always like, I mean, I remember having a conversation with Paige. It was like, this is like one of these things that like, this either makes us or breaks us. And like, I'm not gonna break, but like, this will be a big definer, but like, we have to keep on going. So like, I still went to work. So like, at that point, it was like Paige in the hospital. I'm like coordinating with aunts and uncles. Like, I go to work early. Like, I gotta drop her off till school starts. Then thank God I finished early from work. Come back, try to squeeze it because I couldn't leave in the morning. So like squeeze a quick swim in. I ended up buying a treadmill because I'm in Miami. So like I run outside all the time.
Hot.
But I'm like, I can't leave the house. I got a kid sleeping. So just trying to make it work. But it was rough. It was weird. Because there was no break. It was like, I'm up at 4, get the workout done, go to work, deal with Charlotte, go to work, come back. It's like making dinner, trying to feed a 4-year-old is like, who knows, like what they're in the mood for. And then it's like at bedtime, then it's like, oh, thank God, but I'm exhausted. I'm just gonna pass out. To be honest with you, that was probably my favorite time. So like think of it as my favorite time with Charlotte because it was just me and her. We were like just two peas in a pod. But at the end of that, thank God we had a beautiful baby. Paige was in the hospital for the better part of 3 weeks. To make things weirder. So then because Stella was my second daughter, was a preemie, she had to be in the hospital for a better part of a month-ish. They had like an IV to her head because they couldn't find a vein. It was weird. That was actually a really odd one. She was being fed by a tube. I actually ended up doing Haines City. I don't know if you remember that.
I do remember that. You were still like, we're sticking with the race schedule.
We're going. Unfortunately, I got like sick like 3 days before the race, which sucked. Little bit of stress, and race ended up being fine. I had a decent time and okay time. So that was basically last year, and then that was when at that point Charlotte started getting worse again. We did another round of radiation, and then we started doing all these like crazy clinical trial stuff. Just like we had a really great doctor, and he's like, we'd send him an article or an email and be like, hey, what do you think of this? And he'd be like, let's do it. Why not? Like, what do we have to lose? So it was very open-minded, which was really nice. Because, like parents, everyone, and I'm in the medical field. So it's like, like know enough. I'm just a dentist, but
Well, you know how things work. I mean,
right.
even being with my mom, who was an ER nurse, and spending my life around that type of atmosphere, like I at least can suss out the human body a bit. Like,
Right. Like, so, anyway, so we had a great doctor. He was always open to ideas. Sure, let's try the medication, whatever it was. At that point, Charlotte started another round of radiation. We finished that. Things improved again, which was great. And she always had like great response to everything. Um, we started a new trial. It was like, it's like really hard to describe. They're like putting a tag and a thing that goes through the blood-brain barrier. Then they hit it with ultrasound to like kill cancer cells. It's really
whoa,
cool technology. So she did a treatment of that. We saw some improvement, which was great. And then things kind of just so that the tumor just like comes back because with a vengeance. Because you kill all the weak ones, but the really tough bastards stick around and then they proliferate. So kind of at this point, when she started getting worse towards the end, we went back for another treatment, and the docs were like, "We can't. It's just too big." I think that's when I texted you or called you. I'm like, "Hey man, like,
yeah.
things are not great." Um,
It was probably like that where you were thinking matter of weeks at a time.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, at that point, I think at that point, she ended up hanging for like twice as long as we thought, or even more. Anyway, so things got worse and worse, and then basically all the systems shut down. And in July 29th, she passed. Um, and then
That's
as a Jewish guy, we did Shiva, and it's been over a month now. It's weird, and honestly, it's odder. It's I feel the loss more now when it's quiet than like when there's just so much going on that you just don't your subconscious doesn't deal with it. Um
can you still hear her running around, and just little things kind of remind you that
it's
maybe she's running around somewhere?
yeah, no, it's like weird things that like we'll have good days and you got bad days. And Paige was cleaning up our den and she found this like stupid little zipper like container where Charlotte was stashing these little tchotchke things, like little teeny figurines. We didn't even know about it. She would hide things places. And she found this little bag of stuff and opened it up, and it's just like, here's and it's like weird little things like that that hit you. Um, or you find a painting, or she was super into art. So like all these little tchotchke little things that she would draw or paint, or and then it just hits you weird.
This is this is why I think in the back of my mind I knew we had to talk about this too, because recently, I've married into two kids, and it's, I never had to go through any of the baby stuff, but and that means I never was really around for a lot of the developmental aspects of things. So I'm just being the best friend as best I can. And when it comes to parents, and when you start to think about what is happening more in the world in the future, and what is the meaning of all this, and more than anything, like lately, I've just been like, I was almost a little pissed and bitter. I was like, feels like we just lose so much of what matters in this American culture currently. In being a father, Zach, through this experience, what helped you figure out what matters most amongst work, social obligations, family, triathlon? What was really kind of more of like that hyper focused that showed you the way to make peace, and then also to be able to cope with the day-to-day impending knowledge of what was in your future?
That's a good question. I think, I mean, this about me. I'm a tremendous compartmentalizer. So like for me I can just like go to work. Zach is work mode, and triathlon mode. I'm doing my thing, so I was really very good at that. Um, so focus became kind of goes back to what I said before. Like, I was maybe a little bit in denial in the beginning of, like, I was like, we have to continue our lives. We can't let this like destroy like our just whole life, be the car on fire that goes off the cliff. So
Well,
I think
even real
maybe
quick, like I remember I never wanted you to feel like I was only calling you to check on like your well-being, because I could
right,
imagine like once news got out, that's all people probably wanted to talk about. And
right.
that was something I wanted to make sure we never just always got stuck on.
Yeah, no, I appreciated that. Like, we get enough of talking to people about stuff, and you just repeat yourself over and over. Um, so having like that little break from, I guess, from reality was a good thing. Um, but yeah, I mean, for me, it was really just I knew, like, I'm not going to tank I own a practice. Like, I'm the sole. I have 5 employees that like I rely on me for their families. Um, and 2 daughters. They're like, I have to work. I gotta like do life. Um, and kind of from that was like, I'm the best person with structure. I have to have structure. And so like working out makes me a better person from to day to day. So and keeping up those things to make sure that I got my workout in because I'm a better person when I do it. Then I can be better and more efficient at my job. I get to go home sooner to my daughter. So for me, it was really like as much as possible, keep the routine. And then obviously, like if there was a big doctor appointment, I'm gonna go. If it's something super important like that, like obviously, like you know, I I don't think I swam as much when it was just me and Charlotte alone. Like you just got to make sacrifices, but trying to like cling to normalcy is a good thing when you're just trying to get through life.
Yeah. So the turbulence was there no matter what, but you had to find your own stability within what you could control. And that was being present for Charlotte whenever possible, obviously. And
Right.
then, but taking care of yourself, I think, was the biggest thing I noticed. Like you took care of you and you didn't just give away everything and sacrifice what your life really was all about to begin with, because I think that would have changed the home environment. It would have probably made Charlotte feel different. So the goal was to
Right.
just give her the best possible existence with you being the best person you could be. And that meant more strength for you and Paige.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, even with like Charlotte's routine, we like really push for the longest period of time. Like she's going to school. We're gonna cling to like normalcy for as long like she's a 4-year-old. Let her do 4-year-old things. She's going to school. We talked to the school people and they got her a shadow because towards the end, the way that the tumor works is she loses her balance and she ended up not being able to use one of her arms. So like she and all of her teachers and everybody was amazing. But we really wanted her to have like we didn't want it just to be her sitting in a hospital bed. Like that was not the existence we wanted. And I'm not saying that that's not the right answer for some families or what they needed. I think for us, we wanted her to have the experience of what life would be or that normalcy. Um, and I think it ended up she got to see some cool stuff. We took her to Disneyland with like Make a Wish Foundation was amazing. And I think for us that ended up being the best for her and as a family too. We weren't just stuck sitting at screens all day looking at medical stuff.
And that was kind of like what I wanted to see more of with that story is like what what knowing what it truly feels like to have this tremendous weight, this news, this lifestyle that you must adapt to, and almost losing everything, multiple times, I'm sure. what did it hone in on? What matters most moving forward to you? Like, did priorities and definitions and expectations change for finances, for fun, for a life? What definitions of you and Paige's life are now different?
I mean, I think for me, growing up, I was a very like from an emotional standpoint, I think Paige and I developed tremendously. Um, a big thing was, when you get this kind of news, like you don't know what your brain's going to do, and you go through all the stages of grief and plus. So like emotionally, we developed a lot and communication. Like I remember speaking with Paige. I'm like, this is going to break us. It's going to make us or break us, and it's not breaking me. So we got to talk. You got to tell me when you're not doing well. Like I'll drop everything. Like you just got to tell me. I just need to know. So I think I was a very non-emotional person, um, and it made you be okay with those things. It's okay to feel crappy one day. Um, Paige, can you grab me one of those lights? One of these died. I'm having light failure.
I can still see it fine. Don't worry. I just want to see it better.
I know it's all the. There we go. Ooh, much better.
Nice.
Yeah. So that was a big development, especially for me. Is like I was not a emotional person. Like I just not my thing. Um, so from a marriage standpoint, it was huge. I think in the big scheme of things, it brought us closer together. Um, Relationships, you don't realize how amazing your friends are until they show up on a random night and say, I know you're not going to ask for help. Here's dinner. Or I know that you don't ask. So I bought you guys spa days. So like, or so I mean, we really got to we have some amazing family and friends that did everything. So you appreciate that, and you realize that I made a speech about at a 1 month mark we do something at the synagogue, and I mentioned that there's a saying that says it takes a village, and until you go through something like this and have a great community, you just don't appreciate that. But now I realize like I have a super supportive wife that supports me in everything, triathlon, work. You know, I'm 36 years old and I bought my practice. I'm doing my own thing. Like it takes a lot of support for that. So like that was a huge thing, appreciating family. And with my new daughter, like, man, you look at them differently when, I put her to sleep. Like those moments they just mean so much more. And you appreciate that. You really do.
I think that sends it home for me too. I think even with our teenage kids, when it's annoying and it's 9:30 and everyone's in our bed convening about the day and they're like, why
Yeah.
now versus the
Right.
3 hours we were having dinner. And
Yeah.
at the end of it, I'm like, man, I'm gonna miss these moments when they stop happening. So I think embracing that is so good. And then bringing all of this into regular training, regular life, like I think it's just proof. And that was really what I wanted to kind of remember with all this is it comes full circle. And now, no matter what, like you probably never realized it, but Charlotte's always going to be on my mind, always. She'll always, and the strength that you've ex- exhibited or that I've been able to witness and have conversations with you about, that always is in the back of my mind about type of man I can be. So I think your story is is there for a really good reason. And what you went through wasn't necessarily to do anything but to prove a lot of points that no matter what, even in the worst, and the tragedies, there's in the suffering and the fact that, Charlotte's never really going to be in person anymore, but the fact that there can still be so much good that we can as human beings develop, whether it's a better family life, better expectations for our future, the things you all are going to take into account with Stella, like everything's an opportunity. And I think that's how you look at life, Zach. I think you are the personification of opportunity. Like, I got punched and I'm on the ground. While I'm down here, I'm going to fix this chair because it's been creaking a bit.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. That's exactly my personality. It's I guess when you're young, you just like see everything as like an impediment. Um, and sometimes, and I remember I had a text conversation with you and made a joke about something like really not something you would make a joke about. I'm like, I'm sorry, this is the only way that I'm coping right now. So when you realize like, life is crazy. You get thrown the wildest curveballs and you gotta figure it out. Cause like, what's the other? I remember having a conversation with Paige and I'm like, we gotta figure it out. Like, what else are we gonna do? Like, we gotta do it.
Yeah.
So it's like you said, you just pick yourself up and some days are bad and it's okay to feel like shit. That's okay. I
Yeah.
mean, it's great. Wallowing in and it will pass. Everything passes. But you're going to be stronger because of that. And then kind of being like more in touch with that I've become a better person. But I think that's one of the best things is I've learned from this horrible experience is just emotions are your friend. And being in touch with yourself is so important.
And with Kona coming up, with a massive race that's still through all this we've been building towards, with the emotional wellness that we can sustain, however that might be. What does this race mean to you now? Like, because I mean, it's really important to go there for you. I know that.
I mean, like any age grouper, like Kona's like, the dream. You want to get there, do it. It's like the end all be all. And then like with just everything I've been through. So, 2 years ago when I did Wisconsin, this was before the diagnosis.
We were both there.
Yes, thank you. So I was like, man, we did this together. Yeah. So, you froze to death.
I did.
I did freeze to death. I told you that I lost feeling in my left hand for like 4 days.
Yeah,
because it was so cold. I remember not to change tell war stories, but I remember peeing. You're not allowed to pee. You're not allowed to pee in triathlon, so it didn't happen. But I remember peeing on the bike, and it was the best thing because it was the only time I was warm. So anyway, so got my Kona slot in Wisconsin. Actually, sorry to digress, but when I was there, I remember being on the run and Paige, it was like a part that Paige could see me. And she's like, Zach, you're number 2 right now. And 2 blocks before that, I'm like, I'm gonna walk. It's fine. I can't feel my hand. I'm like, toes don't work. I'm gonna walk. It's fine. It'll be a 8-mile, I think it's close to 6 miles at that point. 6 or 8 miles. I'm like, I'm just gonna walk. It's fine. It's not worth it. So I get to Paige and she's like, you're 2. And I'm like, oh my God, why did you have to tell me that? And she's like, the dude who's number 3 is like, he was like 40 seconds behind me. And I'm like, oh my God. So it was like at that moment, it's like, because like we all look for like that one big effort to like get the goal. And most of the time it's usually like little micro decisions that get you there. But like this was that one decision. It's like, it's for me to lose. If you don't want it, you're not just then walk. So I remember Paige is like, you're number 2, go. You have to go now. And I'm like, I'm fucking going. It's going time. So anyway, I ended up getting the slot. So
they're like, you can go to Nice. You're like, fuck that.
Yeah. So it ended up, yeah. So I remember that. So then I remember getting my slot, but I think it was after that they changed it. And I was like, no way. So I'm like, that's not happening. And so we pushed a year, which is this year. So yeah, dude, Kona's everything.
And I'm so stoked I get to be there to witness it.
Dude, when you told me you're gonna be flying out for Jackson, I'm excited to be there too. It's gonna be great.
Well, yeah, we've got a really good community of our little group that you haven't met. Brett, you'll love him. He
Are
lives up.
other RTS guys going? Who
Yeah,
else is going? Yeah.
couple other athletes I coach. We'll have a bunch of sponsors. We'll have some get-togethers. We'll have a good
Sweet.
old time. Mark Dubrick's going to be there too. He might try to stay on your couch. I don't know. We'll see.
We're staying in wait, I don't think there's even a couch. It's like
a studio.
my mom. It's like, no, she got a timeshare that has like 2 units or something like that. It's the craziest location. It's like 3 blocks from the venue. So, but there's like, I think they're shoe boxes. They're like shoebox places.
That's all right.
So, I mean, he can sleep in the bathtub.
No, I just keep throwing his name to anyone, and they're like, "Well, we've got a carpet and a rug, I think."
Yeah. I mean, he could sleep outside. It's pretty warm.
So this race is going to be epic, just because it's a culmination of a lot of. I wouldn't say it's like it's a new chapter or anything, because I'm sure it's part of a revolving door of chapters, but I think it's going to be a good moment for Charlotte too. It's going to be an opportunity to put some remembrance, to be out there and reflect on that bike course when you're fighting, just like you have been, but now you have some resolve on some levels. And I think knowing whatever happens is up to you now, no matter what, is key. And I think everyone needs to remember that, because we all try to control everything all the time, every day. And then we're just like floating around, bouncing off like ping pong balls. And we don't really have that much control, but we think we do. And I think that's why Ironman, in somebody setting like this, I'm going to go X hours, I'm going to do this. Like, it's just go do your absolute damnedest to be the best version of yourself on that day. And I know if anything, you've got like a backpack full of weapons, dude, full of like emotional weapons that you just like, oh yeah, Kona, it's windy. Oh, it's hot. Oh yeah. All right. Don't worry. I got this. We got some things in my pack for this. So I can't wait to see it.
A lot of tools to, just pull from, a lot of experiences, and, just strength. I like, and honestly, like, the biggest thing is also all the people that brought you there, like just Paige, even thinking of how strong Charlotte was.
Yeah.
I haven't raced. I haven't done an Ironman. Yeah, it's been a minute. Hopefully I don't have too many cobwebs, but I haven't really raced since all this, and I'm super excited. I feel like we've been building to a lot, and it's just gonna be a slugfest war. But I'm ready to rock.
I know. I am too. I'm ready to just show up for you on that day, and be there to give you all the energy I can. I think, I'm really happy for both of us, by the way. We didn't lose it. We
didn't. I thought I'd at least tear a little bit.
I think no matter what, the level of what matters with how we've kind of captured your story and taken the character adversity you've gone through, the growth opportunity, and then your story, and how I think our listeners, I want them to learn and be like, I don't have that many things holding me back at the end of the day. And maybe a lot of them might be self-imposed. And sometimes it is pretty easy to just follow the stream and not try to go upstream. And Zach, your story is one of having to fight upstream back to the start, so you can grab everyone and bring us down all together safely, man. Like you go to the well for everybody, and your staff, your family, your friends. Do you even have a social life with all? I mean, come on. What's your social life?
I do. I have a social life. I have friends. You're my friend, my imaginary friend that I speak to sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. No, I got friends, man.
I know you do.
synagogue's religion's an important part of my life. I go there, that's been helpful. I'm not a super spiritual person. I usually go just to have a couple scotches with the boys. But
Right.
so all those, you don't have a lot of social life with triathlon. But I have a good group of friends that I'm like, hey man, I'm cold plunging right now. You down? And my buddy's like, hell yeah, let's go. So I'm bringing a pack of beer, and we chug beers and jump in 37-degree water.
Whole bunch
Those are
till
the
midnight.
yeah. Those are the weirdos I attract.
Hey man,
Uh,
I overheard you over there. You bought 10 bags of ice. Are we best friends?
Literally, those are my weirdos friends. I have a good friend of mine, David. He always texts me. He's like, "You want a cold plunge tonight?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm so tired." But he'll come over, 6-pack in hand, and we'll just freeze. So it's fun.
Dude, that's good. Well, anything further that we had not previously left anybody to ponder with this very in-depth, emotionally driven, but also pretty positive episode?
Yeah, a lot of people ask, like Paige and I, like, wow, you guys are so strong, and I think they our issue, our struggle has been with our daughter. But because you had asked me about this, like, hey, you want to be on the podcast, but you'd ask me questions like, what keeps you driven, else? And I remember when we talked, I'm like, I don't know, like, I just go. So I kind of been like thinking about it, and I was like, gosh, like, what drives me? Um, and a lot of it is I want to do things that I can be proud for my kids. I want to do things that I can be proud for my wife. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And like this journey started years ago, and I said I qualified for Kona, and I'm going to go there. And so that's been a big part of things. And then I think it's easy to be down in the lose track of what's important in life. And I think when you go through something traumatic, and this was my story, but there's a lot of people dealing with a lot of crazy stuff too and you just don't know. I talk to patients all day, and people are like, "Hey, doc, how you doing?" And I'm like, "Do you really want to know?" Like, especially when we're going through crazy shit, And I would just be like, "I'm doing okay today. How about yourself?" So everyone has their own crap they have to deal with, and once you realize that you become a lot nicer of a person. And it also, in becoming a better person, you also realize what's important, and talk about be there for your family, do what you say you're going to do, and big thing for me is you know this about me. I just like to suffer. As triathlon people, Ironman, we're just gluttons for pain for some reason. And it's a good thing. It makes us better, sharpens steel. And, I have this sign in my gym, and it says, I do the things that you don't want to do, so that
Yes.
sorry, I'm going to missay it. It's, I do the things that you don't want to do, so I can do the things that you can't do.
I like that.
So that's kind of like how I like to live my life is, you rise up, you're stronger than you think you are. And Ironman helps me do that. And I think it does a lot of people too. It just makes us better people.
It does.
My only message is people is just work hard. It's worth it. Keeps you sane. Life happens, shit happens, but stay focused. You'll get your goal. It's just sometimes it takes a little bit of time.
And the people who don't get it are typically the ones who gave up. And that's what I tell myself with like even RTS and what I want it to be. And when it's hard and when things are a bit annoying, I'm like, well, if I quit, then it stops. Then what? Like if you would have just hung up your towel or put the bike on the wall as a piece of art instead of slaying it, it would have been over. And then you would have just looked back and wondered what the hell else you could have done if you tried harder. So I think I like that opportunity, and I like that quote too. I mean, you got to get that tattooed on your body somewhere, or at least on your forehead for the race. I think
I get like one of those like skin tats or whatever.
one
Those
for me,
it's the sticky thing.
as much as of a villain, but Thanos, he always says, "I am inevitable." Like for me, that like
Yeah.
I think of that when I'm like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
hell
this
yeah.
sucks," but I'm like, "Oh, I'm inevitable." And I think you kind of like hit a chord with me too. And I think for my last 2 years of training, I'd taken a different level of approach for my own personal fitness journey, more like regimented blood lactate, so very very low output on some days. And what I had before when I was ripping it up all the time was like I pushed really hard at least once or twice a week. And that's how I've always coached athletes is we have a couple sessions throughout the week that are designed to just mentally chisel you out. It's like a nice glass of concrete so you can harden the fuck up.
Yeah,
And
still happening.
I
Yeah.
missed that. And so now that I'm back into that regimen, like I really enjoy those efforts where I can find that level of like 9.5 out of 10, but then go to 9.8. And then once I'm at 9.8, go to 10.1. Like that's the type of guy you are, Zach. You are that
Yeah,
same chiseled mother effer.
I mean, it goes back to like you just sometimes just like to suffer, but it makes you better because you got to that 9.5, you got 9.6. Some days all you got is 7, and
Yeah, that's okay.
you know
That
that's
7
it,
is a
man.
10 on that day.
Yeah, you're right, right.
But Zach,
Yeah,
you are afraid of sharks.
dude. First off, I've been in a tall building on the beach. It was like 8th floor, and I looked down in the water. There's a jillion sharks in Miami Beach. I'm not gonna. Sorry if people are listening to it. It's terrifying. Now, I don't mind going with other people because like sharks ain't messing with two dudes. I don't want to
Yeah,
go by myself, man. They get. You know what? Like white, those hammerheads will just take a bite of you just to see how you taste.
I know. They won't even do like a graze. They're just gonna like, nope, one bite. Just gotta get in and get out.
Right, and that's my whole bicep. They're just what, and I'm just meat and bones, man. I'm missing an arm.
So sharks. I think when we're all in, even when I lived in St. Pete Beach, I'd be swimming. I would swim by myself, and I'd see like anything, like even like a different shade of water. Oh my god, there's
100%.
something.
Yeah. Well, during COVID, I swam in intercoastal, so beach. You have the island and then intercoastals because we were living in an apartment there. And dude, I did some sketchy swims at like sun's going down. I'm like, I'm just gonna jump in for like 20 minutes, which turns into like 40 minutes. I'm coming back and it's dark, which was like so many poor choices. But I remember swimming. There's all this trash, and I'm like, that's a shark. That's a shark. So been there.
Yeah. Well, on that note, we've been there, we've done that. We're gonna be together in Kona. Thanks, Zach,
Thanks for having me.
for really diving into this one and giving a very optimistic look on everything we could. I mean, obviously, Charlotte, we love you forever. She's gonna be part of my racing career until I die. I always remember her. And Zach,
Thanks,
that
man.
means I'll always remember you and the strength that you've exhibited as a coach, and you've helped coach me. Look at that. It's like, what is
Nice.
that? What is that movie? The teacher becomes the
Just
coach.
like wax on, wax off.
Was
Type
that? I don't know.
I don't know, man. You're not even that much older than I am, so I don't know if it's a movie I haven't seen.
I didn't realize I forgot I was older than you, honestly.
Now I'm thinking about, what are you, 2 years older?
Yeah, I'm 38, man. Thanks for reminding me.
Oh, I thought it was 48. Sorry. I'm
Oh my god. I wish I was. That would be like selling some youth serum.
Oh, seriously. Yeah, you got pretty good abs for an old geezer.
Thanks, dog. All right, Zach. Thanks again. We'll make sure that this gets out to the masses and everyone can learn how awesome you are. And I will put your contact information so everyone can tell you how much they love you.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. And I'm sure I'll text you with some spicy meme tomorrow.
Thanks, bud. Peace out.
All right, later, bro.